So today I'm going to talk about the making of Manto and how do you recreate the times. Mumbai is not like Bombay. Even though some of the buildings exist, we also have ACs jutting out. We have got satellite dishes, hoardings. There are grills on most of the houses that are, of that time. Or they are very well kept but absolutely unaffordable. So I think the biggest challenge in this film was just to find the locations. Some of you who may have watched Manto would know that the film is pretty much half and half in Bombay and half in Lahore. I wanted to shoot in Lahore, but our political situation at that time, as it is often, was very tensed with Pakistan, and therefore I couldn't shoot in Lahore. But a lot of it that we wanted to shoot in Lahore, we did actually find it here, strangely. Not in the usual suspect places, because I got to know that all the films that are set in Pakistan are always shot in India. We looked at various places and finally settled in a small town called Vaso in Gujarat, which is kind of midway between Ahmedabad and Baroda. It makes almost like a triangle. That's where we found. And what I did was I took some photographs there and I sent it to a person called Saeed Ahmed who lives in Lahore, who had become a friend and a consultant of sorts just through emails and Skype and phone calls. I'd never met him. But I sent him those photos and I said, Saeed Saab, do you think this would look like Lahore? And what he did was he sent it to a friend of his, an architect friend of his, and said, these are places in Lahore. Can you tell me where they are? And that person actually wrote down saying, ye chowk hai, ye gali hai, this is so-and-so's person's house, etc. So I thought I couldn't have got a better endorsement. So that's where we created Lahore largely. And in various parts of Bombay, we created the 40s Bombay. Somebody called Rafiq Baghdadi, who does Manto walks. He takes you through the lanes where Manto lived, where Isma Chuptai lived, where they had their kebabs, where they had their tea. And with that come many stories of the time. So I did several walks with him and he showed me many places. And there were times when I would just sort of see a new place and enter their office. I remember once he took me to a hall where we were planning to shoot the courtroom. And we went to the office of that place and I found that the office was actually picture perfect. And the people were rather shocked when I said, I want to shoot in your office, not even that hall that you give for hiring. So we found lots of interesting places through our own location managers, but through also friends and people who suggested various places. Finding the right location was half the battle won, and then dressing them up. For that, we borrowed sometimes little props. Rita Ghosh probably raided the Chor Bazaar and got props from there. A lot of it was about recreating the times in terms of the right architecture, like we would sometimes even get places where the switchboards were right. And then that's why Vaso was also wonderful, because it was almost like an NRI town where people would sort of go off to the US or UK and would only come for a short while. So they hadn't really had those modern fixtures all over. It was really sort of frozen in time. And I think if you can do the right amount of cheating where the audience doesn't get to know, and I'm a bit of a stickler for that you really need to create an authentic environment, but not overdo it. Recreating the context is one thing, but to be able to recreate the characters, to make them real and not just from what I've taken from Manto's works. He was very prolific, so there was a lot of material, but still there was very little about Safia. And also little trivias about him, like how he sat and how he spoke and what were the stories of the family. I went to Lahore and met his 3 daughters, who are almost like family to me now. And also Safia's sister, which means Manto's sister-in-law. I call her Zakia Khala. It's strange because I call the daughters and the sister and everyone with so much respect, but Manto and Safia, I just say it because for me they are characters after all. So they told me a lot of interesting things, like how would Manto sit and write? Like, he would sit on his haunches, literally like this. And he would write like that, like those kind of little trivias. What are the songs he would sing to his children? So I think the precious gift that I got from the family really helped me to build those characters and make them more real. We were showing 4 years of his life. So it's literally Manto's the film is from 1946 to 1950, and those were the most tumultuous years in his life and also in the lives of India and Pakistan. So that's why I chose those 4 years. And it was only 4 years, but there was a huge transition, especially in Manto, and thereby also Safia, because she had to also suffer and struggle a lot with him. And that transition had to come through his clothes, through his hair. All those little details were very, very important. So even though he just wore white kurta pajama most often, there were some scenes that we did with pant and shirt as he wore. But even the quality of the cloth, and he was very impeccable when he was in Bombay in his better days. But as the decline happened, as he went to Lahore, and he was also very troubled, he had no money, and he sort of, his life sort of spiraled down. All of that, the texture of his cloth changes, the color of it. So all those little things, I think, helps in recreating a time, the people, the context. In a film about Manto, it's not only about him, it's also the other people that form his world. I've also interspersed the stories. So, what were the other characters? You have to imagine those characters because, he's only described them, although very vividly. So you can almost see them. But there one could take a little more liberties, or even the other characters like Ismat Chugtai, Kishan Chandar, Rajinder Singh Bedi, the people who formed his world fairs. So to cast them right. So I think doing a historical project has to be a true labor of love. You have to ask yourself, do you really want to tell this story? And if the answer is yes, I would suggest that's the time to plunge into it. Otherwise, it's best not to mount the tiger.